I go to school part-time online, and I also nanny some kids part-time. I have also applied to Motlow's nursing program for this fall, and I'm a newlywed. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself by showing you objects I chose to represent my past, present, and future. But before I show you the objects, I want to tell you a little bit about the bag that I chose to contain them. I got this bag in Cancun, Mexico on my honeymoon. You can ask my husband, I have a slight obsession with this style of bags, but I really like this one in particular because of a couple of reasons. One, the sentimental value that I got it on my honeymoon, and I also like the uniqueness that probably no one I know has a bag just like this. And I just really like this style and the look of it, so that's why I chose this bag. Now I'm going to show you the first object I chose to represent my past. This is a hospital band. In June of 1999, when I was 11 years old, I was hospitalized and diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I chose this because it's a pretty significant part of my past because, one, it was the first major thing that ever really happened to me. I had been sick for a couple of years before they found out what was wrong with me. And the second reason it's so significant is because, as I stated earlier, I've applied to nursing school, and that's where the desire to be a nurse really started. It sounds strange to some people, but I actually had a really pleasant hospital experience. Don't get me wrong, there were times that were not fun and scary, but when I think of that experience overall, I have positive thoughts about it. And I remember being there in the hospital and just thinking, this is what I would like to do for a living. And ever since then, I've had a very strong desire to be a nurse. The second object I chose to represent the past is my Bible. When I was 8 years old, I came to know Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. That was the biggest decision I'd ever made in my life, and still today is the biggest decision I've ever made. It's also the best decision I've ever made. That decision is what defines me as a person. Jesus changed my life, and that's how I perceive my worldview. That's why I treat people the way I do, and why I work as hard as I do. And so that's why I chose the Bible to represent my past also, because it was obviously a very significant part of my life. Now I'll tell you about the present. The first object I chose to tell you about my present is my wedding band. As I stated earlier, I'm a newlywed. I was married on September 22nd of this past year. And besides going to school and working right now, that's really what my life consists of, is being married and just enjoying time with my husband and enjoying married life and adjusting to married life and kind of figuring out what our future looks like together. So that's why I chose my wedding band to represent my present. And the second object I chose to represent the present is my Bible. As I said earlier, when I was 8 years old, I came to know Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. And that, more than being a wife or a student or a nanny, that is who I am. That's what defines me. That's the most important thing in my life, is being a Christian. So that's why I chose the Bible to represent my present also. And now to tell you about the future, the first object I chose to tell you about the future is a stethoscope. I know that the future is unknown, but as I said earlier, I've wanted to be a nurse for a long time. And when I think about the future, I think about starting my nursing career, finishing school and starting that. And even though I might not know in what context that might be, and it might be overseas missions or something here locally, I know that when I think about the future, that's the first thing that I really see. The second object I chose is, again, my Bible. Like I said, the future is unknown, and even though I see myself being a nurse, things change and plans change and even people change, and I know the only thing that doesn't change is God, and that no matter what the future holds, that He's the one that holds the future, and that He will always be there and I will always be His. So that's why I chose the Bible to represent the future and all three of these things, because I know that He never changes. So I hope y'all have learned a little bit